Yeah, but it won't even let me go
Yeah, it
live.
won't let you go live until I started. Oh, I know. You should be able to go live. That's it.
Yeah, so what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Cyber Secure You. Of course, my phone would be going off. Ugh, this is what happened when you go live. Right here on OneStream.tv. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And we had such a great show last week with Michael Collier. Was that not the shit? He's such a funny, intelligent comedian. He's literally the best out there, honestly. He tells you stories, and if you're not paying attention, they will go straight over your head. You know what I'm saying? So he's so awesome. He's so awesome. And so, anyways, we did a show a few weeks ago on China and Chinese and their surveillance. And I told you guys I was going to come back and we were going to talk about U.S. surveillance because we're trying to figure out what's going on here. You know, it's so funny because the U.S. is like, China's trying to take our database and they're trying to take all our information. And the U.S. is acting like they're so super innocent and they're not even dibbling and dabbling in our information at all. So this show today is called U.S. Surveillance. And now the U.S. plays a major role in AI and technology. Unbeknownst, you know, they try to make it seem like they don't. And the U.S. receives most of their surveillance and their technology from China. So let's be clear on that. They do participate and they do acquire our data. And just like Snowden said, they get our information. That's why he put him out there and his ass is seeking refuge right now in Russia. And he really, how about I heard he wants to come back? He really wants to come back here. But the moment he hits U.S. soil, it's a wrap. They're going to lock him right on up. So, because he is a whistleblower. Anyway, some say that the U.S. has more surveillance than China. What do you think, Michael?
Yes,
You think so? You think the U.S. has more surveillance than China?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I would say it's different surveillance. Surveillance in China is those cameras all in your face, we're becoming a huge camera society too.
They're just being sneaky.
But our surveillance is you carry your surveillance everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. I carry my surveillance everywhere I go. That phone is recording everything you are doing.
Even when it's not on.
Yes.
Right. So even when it's not on. But that was not the question. I'm asking you, do you think you think the U.S. has more surveillance than China?
Yes.
Because they're more secretive about it, or because it's not in your face? What?
Well, I just said they're absorbing all the information from your phone.
Okay.
They have cameras just like China does. They may not have as many cameras. They may not tell you all the things they're doing, but they're surveying us just as much as China or more.
Okay. All right. Well, that just goes to say, his point goes to what I was saying. Some say, not everybody. Okay. And then they're saying that we're in this new digital prison system. Okay. And let me break that down for you a little bit. Basically, our digital ID, back in the day, it was our social security number. I remember when they were saying our social security number was a way for the government to track us and identify us, which it is. It's our unique identifying number. Well, now that has changed now to our digital ID, our digital prints, meaning your facial recognition, your digital fingerprint. What else do they use? Your voice recognition. What else? Basically, it's your eyes. You can use your iris. And so that is what they're considering our digital. That's our digital imprint. And that is what the government is using to keep us all in this system. Okay, so my producer, Neff, shout out, sent me some information. And it was so damn deep where I was like, for real? Like, are they literally looking at us as criminals? Because they're basically saying they can't trust us. We don't trust you guys. So we have to keep track of everything you're doing in every way possible. And they're collecting all this data.
You're a domestic terrorist.
Ooh.
Possibly.
He said it. I didn't.
Everybody is considered a domestic terrorist because the real terror is inside our country.
Domestic terrorism. That's creepy. So basically, there's no need, like in Revelations, they were talking about our end times, and this stuff is in the Bible. So the information she sent me today was so relevant because in the Bible, it talks about this. But the Bible did not talk about all the digital stuff that's going on, unless I'm missing something. In Revelations, it did not talk about the digital. They said you would get the mark of the beast on your hand and your forehead. But now it's really, the digital is the mark of the beast, right? So basically, they are using all of this, saying we're criminals, and they don't trust us, and they're going to monitor us in this way. So it's not longer going to be these chips that they're going to be, that they were once talking about, like everybody's going to have a chip, and that's how they'll be able to identify you. We're allowing them to do it. Now, how about we're giving the U.S. permission to do this? Just by saying, okay, we're going to use, just by you using it. You didn't really say yes, but by you using it, you're saying yes. Get it? Okay.
Using what?
Using facial recognition, using your digital fingerprint, using your irises. All of those as a way of saying you're basically complying, or we're not complying, but if you use that as a method to get into your devices, you're basically giving them the okay to go in and track your information because they use all of that.
DNA too.
Yeah, your DNA. How about people who go to the blood bank and give their blood? I wonder what that's doing in a digital sense, okay? Anyways, so they're plugged into our entire system. Everything we do, everything we say, everywhere we go, right? And there was also a mention of these LED lights. So they're saying, this is what I've heard, okay, that all of the lights that we're seeing, the stop lights, the lights that you see on the street that light up your street, All of those are going to be replaced or have been replaced or are working. They're working on replacing them with LED lighting. You know anything about LED lighting?
We use it here, so why is it important for the government to use?
Well, because once again, it is a way for them to track us. So now the LED lights, apparently it's able to connect to like your phone and your car, and it incapacitates you in a way, and it messes with your brain. There were studies done on this. Now, I'm not like 100% familiar with this whole LED thing. I just thought I would bring it up because if you want to go out there and do your own research, you can, by all means, check it out. But apparently, this does mess with your ability to think, okay? In turn, make decisions, in turn, free will.
Wow.
Deep, right?
It's not surprising.
Okay. All right. Well, Michael doesn't think it's surprising. So the U.S. is also very sophisticated. They have they have very sophisticated surveillance methods. So China has theirs, like we discussed a few weeks ago. But the U.S., they also, by acquiring their surveillance technology from China, is just as sophisticated. You know, it's literally like the kettle. What is it? What's that saying? The pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh no, we blame you. No, you're getting our data. No, you're doing this, you're doing that, to hide the fact that the U.S. is just as damn surveilling as China.
But if you make China the villain, they're the bad guys.
Right.
You project all that negative behavior onto the boogeyman China, then you can be the squeaky clean. Oh, we're pure. We're good.
And they had me feeling that way. Yes. I honestly was starting to feel some kind of way about China. Like, these bastards.
Yeah.
They brought TikTok and they're checking. Well, I did. Did I mention this? No, I did this on Instagram, where federal prosecutors in New York, I might as well mention it here. Federal prosecutors in New York found a underground police station. Well, it was operating as a police station, but it was really like an underground police station that was supposed to help Asian citizens with their documentation, driver's license, and stuff like that. When really, this particular police station was feeding information back to China. And they arrested about 30 people. This happened this week. Was it this week? Yeah, it was this week. So, in turn, it goes both ways. That's all I know. It goes both ways. And the Department of Homeland Security has they have mass fusion centers with huge national databases and surveillance on who? The U.S. citizens. So once again, they're not so different. They store our personal information, including photos, texts, emails. There's spyware that directly looks at what's going on in our day-to-day lives, and it can bypass any encryption. Okay, so they have applications, they have specialists that can bypass all this stuff. And now that they're using AI, watch the fuck out. Artificial intelligence. I was speaking to someone the other day, and he was telling me how he wrote an entire book on one of the chat GPTs, a 200-page book. Now, here's the thing. Honestly, that's a good thing, right? So he can actually sell that and go make some money and not have to put in nowhere near the amount of work that he has to put in. At the same time, it is very intrusive, and it's dumbing down our society, right? So we don't have to think no more. Why do you think that is, Michael?
Yeah, because if you're not thinking and the computer thinks for you, once the computer is removed, what are you going to do? For example, how many telephone numbers do you memorize?
I think we talked about that on the show.
Yeah, but before you used to memorize it.
Oh, you had to know them all. How about that?
You had to know at least a top 10.
I think back in the day, we knew all the phone numbers. We really did. Yeah. I knew them all.
Yeah, and so if you lose your phone, you're like, bah, you remember that time
I knew all my friends' number, my family's number, aunt's number. I knew everybody's number.
Yeah. Remember that time I left my phone in your car and going to the airport?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't remember your number.
And how about you dial it all the time? You know what I have to do sometimes? I have to pick up the phone and look at the keypad, and then I kind of can remember it because I'm very visual. That's how I can remember it. But that's what it is. Like, you don't have to remember. I'm going to ask my daughter, does she know my number by heart?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question for a millennial.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are like, why should I know it? I mean, it's all in the computer. I don't have to know the number. What do I need to know the number for?
What happens if you go to jail and they confiscate your phone? Who are you going to call?
How about what if you have to use somebody else's phone because you lose your phone?
Yeah, all of that.
All of that. Yeah, like it's the dumbifying. So all of this has a trickling effect. But the bottom line, since we're talking about U.S. Bless you.
Ooh, sorry.
Did you do that in the mic?
No.
Anyways. All right. I was doing some research, and I found that the Baltimore police, they went and secretly deployed aerial drones over the people in their city for daily surveillance. Okay? It's not like they were doing it just to, we're trying, you know how you get the helicopters that are looking for a criminal who just like went and robbed the bank, or, you know, they're looking for someone who did something wrong. They're doing this on citizens who did nothing wrong. They just want to know what you're doing. Why do you think they're so goddamn curious? Bored? Nah. No, that's not a good answer. And how about it? They said that the photos would be snapped every second by these drones and circle the city up to 10 hours a day. Why? Okay? And Baltimore is in the United States. And believe me, what was that?
Stick to your game.
Oh, okay. We got special effects. That's new. I don't know. I've never had that happen before. I was like, what the hell is going on? Anyways, so the Baltimore police also deployed facial recognition cameras to monitor and arrest people. So that, I understand that. But when you're talking about citizens who have done nothing wrong, I feel like you're opening up the door for them to get harassed. That way, let's say China, if they wanted to, can hack into the U.S. database. They don't even have to hack in because they have our information anyways, and pick out who they want to fuck with. Okay, because that's what these individuals that worked at the underground police station, those individuals, that's what they were doing. They were harassing U.S. citizens, intimidating them, spying on them, which is literally what I have been dealing with. It's funny because I've had people tell me, Val, do you think it's the government doing this to you? Okay? Because, it's like, who has their hands in every fucking thing that you do? Everything? It's damn near inhuman. It seems like it's not even humanly possible. You have to have a team, and you have to have the power to be able to pull some shit off like that. We've discussed on this show the smart cities and the safe cities. The technology that's used to predict, prevent, and reduce crime and address new emerging threats. But it seems like they're taking it further than that. The U.S. likes to cover up stuff, like Michael was talking about. They don't like to admit when they're actually doing something wrong. And they want to blame it on someone else when they're just as in the wrong. Right? And then they want to justify it as if it's for our betterment. But in all actuality, it is not. And we're all succumbing to having to be a part of this, because it seems like you can't even operate outside of it. When you call companies, they want everything to be sent by, just send us an email. Some support departments, you can't even get a real person on the phone. You got to call support. You got to email. You can't call. You got to email. So it's like you have no choice. I even did an Instagram post where I was like, I don't mind getting all these views. That's great, because obviously that's what you have to do. I'm from the old school. We didn't have all of this going on. When I was doing my show Vibing with Val back in the day, this was not even around. Was it, Michael? Was there any of that? We had internet, but there was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was no Twitter. There was none of this stuff. So we had to do things. A lot of it was word of mouth. You had to get out there. You had to talk to people. You had to do things. Caused you to move. So But now that's not the case. So let me see, what else do I have? There's a combination, right? So there's sensors. This is what the U.S., you're talking about the U.S., combination of sensors, tracking devices, surveillance technology to increase the police and security force capabilities. Once again, they blame this on having to keep a low crime rate, right? But I don't know. That's not necessarily the case. And so the police, so for instance, the police, they have these cameras they wear now, right? And these cameras, if you go to the police for help, whether you're in the wrong or the right, they're automatically snapping your picture. You're going into a database. What exactly are they doing with this information? Why they may be storing it for a reason. I remember when I called the police to ask him about my particular snapshot that they took, all of a sudden the cameras broke and everything was down, So I don't know what they're doing. I don't quite get it. But nevertheless, moving on. Yeah, there they are right there with their cameras on. So they should always, if you ask that, how they say, oh, the call is being recorded for security purposes and blah, 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 blah. This is what these cameras are for. It's basically for security. And then they don't have to remember. It's dumbifying our police department. How about they don't even have to remember? They're supposedly taking pictures and everything's being recorded, so all they got to do is go back and play the recording. They don't even have to remember and think anymore. Anyways, moving on. So there is a digital prying service that the U.S. has been relying on and using called Pegasus. And Pegasus is a software made by Israel. And a lot of people don't realize that Israel is damn near the capital of technology. A lot of people want to think it's China, but Israel is far past it. They have a lot going on when it comes to technology. And so they make this software, and it's based on the cybersecurity group named NSO. Let me get it right. N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, O as in Oscar. Are you okay? Anyways, so they have this program and this software, and the U.S. So the NSO group offered a bag of cash for sensitive mobile phone data from the U.S. and from a tech firm, okay? The spyware was found on the phone in at least 9 State Department officials, okay? So basically, let me just unwrap all that. Bottom line is this NSO group, which was created by Israelis, is something that the U.S. was using, okay? And then the U.S. decided, and the U.S. even granted big organizations and companies the right to use this. Go ahead, use it. Go ahead. By all means, use their service. We're using it too. But then the U.S. changed their mind because they felt like, oh no, they're prying too much, they're getting too much data. Kind of like TikTok. Does it remind you of that? And now they want to pull back, and they're like, oh no, shut it down. We're not going to use them anymore. So they gave WhatsApp the right to go ahead and sue NSO because of them prying and getting the data so mind you, they're providing the U.S. with the software, but they're also being able to collect the data. So in turn, they're using the data. The U.S. is using the data, and the U.S. is like, wait a minute now, we don't want that anymore. No, we don't want you to do that anymore, so now we're taking that away. And so now there's this battle going on because the U.S. does not want to be using NSO and their software anymore. So they're allowing WhatsApp to go ahead and sue this group. We'll see what happens there. The U.S. government apparently was worried about misuse of the software and launched a criminal investigation against NSO Group, which is an Israeli group. So interestingly enough, I found that interesting simply because I don't know. Is the U.S. has a habit of doing this? Like, you just put it out there. Just be honest. You know, you guys are also just as much responsible for all of this surveillance as any other country. And if anything, you're allowing these other countries to be able to surveil us even more because you are purchasing their surveillance gear. You're purchasing their surveillance technology. So you're saying, hey, we need to get this from you guys because we need to do this over here. And maybe the deal is, okay, shake on it. But in order for us to complete this deal, this is what the Israelis are saying, we need to also get access to this, that, and the other. Then the U.S. decides, oh, no, want to change our mind. So I thought I put my phone on silent. What in the world? I tell you what. I swear I put this thing on silent. I don't know what happened. Anyways, so let's see. U.S. government NSO supplied software to foreign governments that used it to maliciously target government officials. So this is another issue they were having with this NSO group. They were saying that the information that they were acquiring, they were then turning around and using on journalists and government officials. And this is why the U.S. is like, nope, we don't want to use you anymore. So they signed an executive order to basically blacklist NSO group, a group that they were using for quite some time, by the way. So NSO is definitely fighting back. And the U.S. is declaring it a national, like it's like a big deal. It's a national security. It's a threat to our security. That's what they're saying. And they're letting American companies do not do business with them anymore. Stop it. That's it. So I don't know how I feel about this as far as, like, should we be using them? Should we not be using them? I really can't say. I don't know, Michael. What do you think? Do you think we should be using NSO? I mean, do you know enough about them? Basically, like I said, there's right. I mean, it's a organization, and then, like, their software is very much implemented and used by a lot of U.S. businesses. So they basically said no. The U.S. Supreme Court has let the meta platforms like WhatsApp, like I said, pursue them and basically take them to court because they had installed spy software on about 1,400 journalists and government officials. They secretly installed this on their WhatsApp platform, and that's why WhatsApp was able to sue NSO, because of them secretly putting this information on devices. But hell, when you think about it, when you go on Facebook, we don't know what's running in the background. We don't know what's running in the background of Instagram when we use Instagram. There's all kinds of spyware going on in the background. So if that's the case, we need to shut all that shit down. But I think we're too deep in. How do you pull back when we're so far in? Matter of fact, the engineer that works with us, Francisco, showed me a video of a artificial intelligent robot that was working in the mailroom or something, and the damn thing collapsed. I guess they said he unplugged himself. Like, listen, it confused the shit out of me because I'm like,
No, they said he committed, or the robot committed suicide.
How does a robot commit suicide?
Well, what? They're giving it humanoid qualities.
So it thought, oh, I'm tired, I'm done, and it unplugged itself.
No, it was programmed to be efficient with the Amazon deliveries and putting things together. And so-called, when it realized that it's an impossible feat, it got overwhelmed. I'm going to put humanoid characteristics and depressed and decide to kill itself. This is the narrative that's been told to us.
Okay, that's bizarre. I still can't wrap my mind around it. I'm going to tell you the truth. I've watched that video several times, and I'm not sure. He just all of a sudden fell on the ground. It's not like he turned off a switch. Not like he unplugged anything. It's not like he, hurt himself or hurt itself.
How about it
just collapsed?
How about it just malfunctioned?
It didn't even look like it malfunctioned.
Well, it just fell, so maybe
I just don't understand how a robot commits suicide, but okay.
No, that's what they're telling us.
Oh, that's what they're telling us. Okay.
Yeah, they want to give inanimate, non-humanoid things humanoid human qualities,
Correct.
human emotions, so we can look at the thing like a human.
Yes.
It's psychological programming.
Yes, absolutely. So all in all, when it comes to U.S. surveillance, okay, everywhere we look, they are spying on us. All right. And you just have to be okay with the, and a lot of times, like I have a friend that works for the government, and like, I've mentioned this on my show before. He says, Val, if you don't have nothing to hide, what are you worried about? Well, I don't have anything to hide, but I also would like some privacy.
I got a lot to hide.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, it's none of your business. How about none of your fucking business? Shit, I'm not doing anything against the law, but shit, that's a big gray area. Stay out of my lane.
Okay, but how? Lane. Okay, but you're saying that, yet you're using technology that's spying on you. So once again, how the two don't fit? They don't match. They don't. That puzzle doesn't fit together. How can you say you want your privacy, yet you're using applications and programs and software that pry into your privacy?
Well, I need to restructure what I use then.
Right. And is there anything truly out there that literally hides you, that protects you, that keeps you hidden? There is, I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research on that. Maybe that'll be our next show.
Doctor, what's
out there?
Doctor, what's his name? Your guest?
Oh, Dr. Epstein?
Yeah, his whole theory,
He said he hasn't had an ad from Google in 20 years or something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Right. And so, and he does use a specific device, and he does use a specific cell phone service and network and what have you. And I actually, have been trying to get him to tell me what exactly does he use. You know what I mean? Because I want to be on that. Even Brave, he had mentioned using Brave. It's still data, like Brave pays you for doing certain things on their platform. And how do you think they're being funded? How are they getting their money? How are they making money? Most likely through advertisers. And how do the advertisers advertise on their platform? How do they know if it's a right fit and the right demographics? Because somebody's giving them information about the users. So you know what? I don't know if we have any privacy anymore, even in your own homes. And the U.S. is always watching. So my conclusion is that the U.S. surveils us just as much as China. It's just they don't do it in the way the Chinese government does it. And the U.S. leads us to believe that we have free will. And to a certain extent, we do. We don't have as many restrictions as the Chinese government's places on their citizens. At the same time, just know they're always watching. The eyes are always on you. And unless you unplug yourself totally, which is what I had to do. When my situation and the hacking and the stalking, all of that first happened to me, and my mom hired a detective, he told me to go hide out. And I went and hid out. I couldn't use any devices. I couldn't because everything kept getting hacked. They kept looping. So I would buy a new phone, and as soon as I open it, it would be looping. I could never even use it. So I was just wasting money buying phones. It would just loop. So finally I just gave up and said, fuck it. I'm not using anything. And I unplugged. I had to literally unplug. But then if you unplug, you can't move forward in your life. You have to, you're on here you're on this earth to do things. You're on this earth to make the mark that you're supposed to make, whatever that mark may be, no matter how big, no matter how small. But the point is we all need to know, regardless, the U.S. watches us just as much. And that is how I feel the comparison with, are we serious right now? And I turned down my volume. Anyways, am I done? Did I wrap up my time? Do you have anything to say, Michael? Do you feel how I feel?
I feel probably worse. I just contain it, and I'm looking forward to the day that all of this surveillance comes by and backfires because, there's people in powerful positions also being surveyed.
Yes, they are.
And so all of the, what do they call? Cream always rises to the top.
Yeah.
Well, dirt also gets exposed. So I'm looking forward to the day where the truths come out through the surveillance. In my imaginary world, I imagine a hacker going through and getting all of this data that they're using and capturing and using it against them. Use the technology against the adversary. That's like rule number 2 in the art of war.
Okay, but you know what's going to happen. They do that there, and they're going to end up having to go and hide out somewhere, and they won't be able to come and live a peaceful life. So
I just want all the truth to come out to the surface.
Okay, well that's justified. That's a fair ask as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I think I'm at my time. Am I not?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, I gave you guys my conclusion. And I think what I'm going to do next week, if I don't have a guest, is I'm going to go and do a little digging, find out what software and what apps can we use to literally hide ourselves. So what devices are out there? Because there are special phones that you can get. You don't always have to get an iPhone. You don't always have to get a Samsung. There are other devices that are super heavily encrypted, and it's better than being extremely exposed. So maybe I'll provide you guys some information on that. And but then at the same time, if you're doing that and then you're turning around and still posting on Instagram, like I'll probably be doing, then I'm not hiding necessarily, right? So I don't know. We'll have to figure this out, but we'll work on it together. So thank you so much for joining me on Cybersecure You right here, OneStream.tv. Thanks for my producer, Nev. Thank you, Michael. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace out. Oh, God. Really? I've been saying Michael all this time.
Yeah, well, I just figured it out.